Welcome to today's webinar. I'm really looking forward to show you all the new features and everything that's new in Collaboard version 8.2. And the cool thing about this release is it's not just new features, it also introduces some new ways of working. And today we have the following things on our agenda. So first of all, we will check out the new task feature. Then we will look at the notification center. We improved the participant management on the board itself. We made some updates to the frame object, some optimization for aligning multiple objects on the board. And one of my favorite features, it's the template sharing, where we make it even easier to share templates within the organization or also with external, in case you have external people working with Collaboard as well. And we will start right away with the new task object. So the new task object is basically a task you can put on the whiteboard. You can put the colors, you can colorize the tasks, you can assign the task to people, which are also part of your board. It's possible to manage the status, to add priorities, tags. There's a start date and end date. And you can also put there an extended description. And after showing you how the task works, I will bring some use cases, because maybe you ask yourself, why shall I do task management on the online whiteboard? And I will answer that question with a few simple use cases. So let's have a look where we find the task. So here on the left side of the user interface in the toolbar, we see there is a new object called task, and we can just add them here to the board. Now, how is the task structured? So first of all, we have a title. So we can, for example, we need to plan an event. And now we have here the option to change a different color. And for the people who are already working a little bit longer with Collaboard, you see we also changed the layout of the color feature here in Collaboard. So basically we can assign any color to that task. Now we can have a status. So we have the status like the task is it's to do, it's in progress, or it's done. And now the cool thing is we can assign the task to a specific person. So in this case, we assign the task to Alice, and Alice is now notified, hey, this task has been added you on that board, so please check it out. As it's a task, we want to be able to do some task management. So for example, we have here the option to set a start and an end date for the task. This is something we can do, and we can also add some tags. So basically you're free which tags to use, and you can define them by yourself. Now in my example here on the board, I already created some tags for priorities. So we could make this task now as a high prior task. So we see now this information is here as well. But maybe when we plan an event, a simple task like that or a big task, it's not enough. So what we can do now, we can add an extended description to this task. So we have here the option to open it on the left side. So we see again, there is the title of the task, the status. We can do the changes here as well. And now the cool thing is when we go to the description, we can also add a description for that task. So maybe when we talk about planning an event, we need to create an invitation. We need to book a venue and some other things. So what we can do now here, we also have some layout options for the text. For example, we could put them in a numeric list. This is something we can do. We can make the text bold. And in case some of the things are already done, maybe we would like to mark that. So one option to do this is that we have here also this feature to strike through the text, for example, in here as well. So the task object here in Collaboard, it really allows you to start with a title, with something simple, and then add an extended description. You can even put the link to another document or something like that. So you have even more information in the task here directly on Collaboard. When we designed the task object, we said we want to follow the same logic like we do for all the other objects on the whiteboard. So this means we have here all the features like pinning, locking, hiding the task. We can create a link and so on. So this is here all as well. So in the end, it's a new object on the whiteboard with all the existing features, plus everything we have seen so far to allow us to manage the tasks on the board itself. Now, let's have a look on what we can do with that. So basically, with the new tasks object in Collaboard, we can do some sort of visual project management. And why should we manage tasks on the whiteboard? So there are a few reasons. So one reason is that we have a really flexible layout. So we don't need to think only in columns and tasks in columns. We can do a traditional Kanban, of course, but we can also move the task from a traditional Kanban structure from columns, for example, into an Eisenhower matrix to prioritize the task. We can also visualize dependencies on the task by using connectors. And one of my favorite things that we can also visualize tasks on a roadmap. So this gives us then a much better overview on when things need to be completed, when task starts, and so on. And to show you that, I brought some examples with me. So here we start with a Kanban board. It's about also event planning again. So it's quite simple. We have the backlog, the to-do, in progress, and done columns. And because we thought, okay, let's do it a little bit visual, we generated here a picture, which is basically a window wall with a very nice outlook into the forest. And now we see we put here all the tasks. So if we zoom in a little bit, we see here all the tasks. They already have been assigned to some people. So we can always select the tasks and then reassign them as well. And I think this task is it was locked, so just unlock them here. So now you see we can go here to that task. We can assign it to another user. We can change the status and things like that. And now what I really like about that, the Kanban board doesn't need to be always boring. So you can also add here a picture in the background and then lay the task on top, for example. Of course, you can also do a traditional Kanban board. This is something I have created here. I already put some pre-created tasks on top. So we have tasks with low prio, with medium prio, with high prio. Means people can just grab a task here and then move it directly into the table. So in this case, this is a table where we have the task, and that's then more the traditional way of doing a Kanban board. And with the task now in Collaboard, the cool thing is that you can assign them, manage priorities, and all the things I have shown you before. But maybe if you have a lot of tasks in to do, you're not really sure with what to start. So you need some guidelines on that. And a good way to figure out which tasks are important or which are time critical, there is a nice template in Collaboard which is called the Eisenhower matrix. So the Eisenhower matrix basically allows us to define tasks and think about how urgent they are and how important. So everything that is super urgent and super important means do it now. Everything else can be scheduled at a later time. Maybe there are things not to do or things that can be delegated to someone else. So in that case, you could move a task from a Kanban board directly in here as well. And then you see, okay, these are the super important tasks. So assign them, set a high priority. And this is just another way of figuring out what's really important and then lay the focus on the super important task, and everything else that's maybe not important to postpone it for later. And if we talk about visual project management, that's a very nice approach of doing task prioritization, maybe not just for yourself, but also together with your team. And by putting them here, that's super flexible. And in the end, you can always move them back into the Kanban board and, for example, like I have done here, use different colors to mark the importance and urgency of the task as well. Now, the other example I brought with me is the roadmap. So let's think about you want to plan a year ahead and you already know there are some tasks. Now, when you use a classical Kanban or task management system, you really focus on the task and you have everywhere the task. And then you may have you need to go to another tab and another tab in your browser. So you don't really have this full, nice visual overview. And this is something you can do in a very nice way on Collaboard. So for example, here we have our task roadmap for this year. Then we have the project team with a short org chart that basically visualizes who is taking part in that project. You could add roles, pictures, of course, and all that things. And now what we did here is we added the task to that roadmap. So we see, okay, these are things to do in Q1, Q2. And you already see here as well that some tasks are linked with each other. Because the cool thing now is that, and let's maybe just remove this one here, that we can reuse all the elements we already know from Collaboard. So let's say we want to connect this task with this one here, so we can show a dependency. We can also use, for example, some arrows, and let's make it a little bit bigger, just as an example, to show how things belong together. And this is something you can't really do in a nice way in a classical list. And with that, you have a very lovely visual representation on how your tasks belong together. So when I work with other task management systems, there is always a lot to read and to understand. Okay, this needs to be done here. Sometimes I would have wished that it's a little bit more personal. So just an idea here, you can also add a video directly to the whiteboard that is explaining what to do in that task. So you can start thinking about combining all these different elements on the whiteboard. Or if there is a task about creating a new document or something like that, then you can also link the task here directly with a document inside the Collaboard, where then people can see, okay, this is the task, this is the document, this is what needs to be read. And it's just a other way of doing project management. It's much more visual. And for people who think visually, I think it's a very big help to do this on here on the whiteboard. Yeah, this is the new task object and some ideas how you can use them in Collaboard for visual project management. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about this notification center, because this is also something very new in Collaboard. And the notification center, it's on the top right, it's indicated with a small bell, and you see how many read or unread messages you have. So what can be done here? First of all, there are system messages from Collaboard, meaning if you use Collaboard from the cloud operated by Collaboard, there are our system messages. In case you're hosting Collaboard by yourself, you can put out system messages to all your users, for example, informing them about the next update, maybe about the next webinar or something like that. In the notification center, you also see if a task has been assigned to you. You also see if somebody mentioned you in a comment. And then there are some options to mark a comment as a notification as read. You can also filter them. And the notification center, it's implemented on the whiteboard itself, but also on the cockpit, this dashboard where you see all the whiteboards a user has created. So if we have a look here at the notification, so you see here now there are a lot of notifications about tasks that has been assigned now to this user. And the cool thing is, if you click on that link, you jump directly to this specific task, either on this whiteboard, or if the task or the comment you have been mentioned is on another board, then Collaboard just opens another tab in the browser and you jump directly to the location of that comment. If there are a lot of notifications, maybe you were on holidays for 2 weeks, so you come back, there are a lot of notifications, then you can also filter them. So you have an option to say, show me just the system notification, show me just the tasks assigned to me, or maybe even better, show which task has been unassigned for me in this case. So this notification center, I think it's very useful, especially for asynchronous collaboration, meaning when people don't work together at the same time on the online whiteboard. So you stay a little bit up to date what has happened and what other people have done, tasks which were assigned to you, and so on. Now, the next thing we did is we streamlined the management of the participants on the whiteboard. So first of all, we created a new design. We also provide some information who is online at the moment. So in case you don't use the feature of the mouse pointers, where the mouse cursors, because if you have 50 or 100 people on the whiteboard and there are 50 mouse pointers flying around, it's maybe worth deactivating it. Then you still see in the participant overview who is online at the moment. We also display some information about the last visit on the board of a specific user. And I think this is the most useful part. You can change the permissions for an individual or for multiple users at the same time. So let's have a look how this looks like. So we see here now the new design. We see we have two owners of the board, then there is a guest. So we could, for example, now change the permission of the guest from editor to viewer or so on. And if we have multiple people on the same board, then we can also modify the permissions for all the people. So in this case, we could just select here everybody, and then we can change the permission to viewer or editor. And that's the nice thing. Think about 20, 50 people on the same board. And after a brainstorming session, you don't want that people change things. Of course, you can lock the content. That's one way. But the other way is that you can just withdraw the permission to edit and just make them viewer with a few clicks. So this is the optimized way of doing that. And let's stay with this example. You have 50 or more people on the board. Maybe you don't know which permissions you added to a specific user. So you can also go here, say, okay, show me just all the editors, all the viewers. And you have the option as well to search for a specific user and then see directly the permissions this participant has on that board. So this is the streamlined participant management we implemented. Now we make some improvements to the frame. So basically you can do a few things. You can now send your content within a frame. You can fit the frame to the content and adjust the layout. And you can also create a frame from multiple selected elements on the board. As this may sound a little bit theoretical, let's make an example. So we're just adding here a sticky note to the whiteboard, maybe some text and the shape. And now I would like to put all of them into a frame. So what I can do now, I can select all of them, go here to the three dots and say, create a frame. Automatically, I have here now a frame where I, for example, could change the background color and so on. So this is one thing. Now let's make the frame a little bit bigger. And now we see the content is absolutely not in the center anymore. So what we can do now is we can also center the content. Now it's in the middle of the frame again, but the frame is still very big. So we can also say, Collaboard, that the size of the frame should fit the content. We click on here and we have a nice layout again. A few small improvements for the frame, but we believe, especially for the people who are creating a lot of boards and using a lot of frames, that's a very big help because it just allows you to lay out things easier and faster. The other improvements we added to this release is an improvement to the alignment tools. So you may know that in Collaboard, it's possible to activate this background grid. You can do this, for example, with the keyboard shortcut, Shift and G. And now there is a new setting, and this setting allows you to say snap to grid. And if you activate that, and if you add now some new objects, let's add here just 2 sticky notes. Now the cool thing is, if we activate snap to grid, you see there is this magnetic snapper, which makes it very easy to add content then directly to the grid, for example, and put it in here. So it's just a small thing, a few small things, but it really helps to align content on the whiteboard. Yeah, what's next? So what's next is the option to share your templates. So imagine you create a template and there is the option to create personal templates, so they are yours, or you can also create the organizational templates. And now the cool thing is you can share them via link. And you can also, because security, it's something very important for Collaboard, you can protect these links with a password, and you can also set an expiration date for that link as well. Let's just have a short look on how this is done. So if we click here on the templates, we can go, for example, to the organizational templates or to the personal templates. And now what we can do is we can create here this shareable link. We can give the template a new name if we want to do that. We can add here the password and say how long the template link shall be valid. And then the cool thing is, if I share this link with someone, this person just clicks on the link and creates a new board based on that template. I brought some use cases with me, so you get a little bit better understanding on how this can be used. So one thing here is that, let's imagine you're a teacher and you have a lot of students. So maybe you prepare an activity as a template. And now the easiest way to share this with your students is just to provide them the link to the template, and every student is creating his own board with that specific activity he can start to work on. Another use case is for coaching and training. So we have a lot of coaches and trainers working with Collaboard, and some of them are offering their templates to the people they train or coach. So in this case, one option could be that you add this template link to your website. So if somebody is visiting you, they can just click on the link and explore the template you already prepared. So they get a little bit better understanding on how you work with Collaboard in the training and coaching activities. Another very nice feature is that a lot of bigger organizations, they're organized in departments. Maybe there's or even some silos and there isn't the best communication, but maybe Department A created a very useful template that could be also used by Department B. So with this new way, it's very easy to share a template between organizations or between templates just by using a link. And the last use case I brought with me is the option to also make templates available, for example, in a knowledge base. So we know there are a lot of customers who are visualizing processes and workflows directly on Collaboard, and maybe you share them as a template, put this link into the knowledge base, so every user who is new and needs to learn about this workflow, he can read the description, but then click on the link, go to the visual representation on the online whiteboard, and see how everything is working together. Yeah, these are the, let's say, major new features of Collaboard version 8.2. We are very happy about the new task object because it really brings new possibilities of working with Collaboard. And of course, we're improving Collaboard even more. So we have a lot of things planned on the roadmap. And there is one way you can help us improving Collaboard. And a lot of customers are already doing that. So a lot of them are providing us feedback. But there is also these reviewed platforms where you can review software. And what I would like to ask you, a small favor, I will put a link to the chat that you can help us review Collaboard on a platform called Capterra, and provide an honest review. Let others know what you like about Collaboard. Maybe there are some things we need to improve, but in the end, these reviews help other customers to decide if they want to start with a solution like Collaboard or not. So I will put the link into the chat in 1 minute. Yeah, this was Collaboard version 8.2. So thank you very much for attending the webinar. and you're interested in Collaboard. And then the only thing I can say, happy collaborating and have a great rest of the day.